If you're in the market for an entry-level bandsaw at an affordable price point that can outpunch its weight, you might want to check out what I have to say about this WEN right after I cue the intro. Hey everyone, Paul here with Tool Metrics, and if you're new to my channel, I'm a woodworker and a tool enthusiast. I do a lot of tool reviews, and today I'm looking at this 9-inch WEN bandsaw. So this is an entry-level bandsaw. I've been a bandsaw sort of power user for about 30 years now. I'm really into that tool, and I've had many of them. I had one about this size as my first bandsaw, and I've worked my way up to now an 18-inch bandsaw that I use for just about everything. So I want to cover a few things on this WEN bandsaw for you. So first, I'm not going to read the spec list. That's available on the web and you can see all that. But what I'm going to do is share what some of the more important ones of the specifications are and give you my interpretation of that. So first thing, just want to talk about, I guess, your expectations around this saw. So I think this saw is a phenomenal performer in its class. So what do I mean by in its class? I think any craft project that you could use a bandsaw for, this is going to really knock it out of the park. Even some lightweight kind of woodworking projects. I think you could certainly cut curves on hardwood for furniture projects and so forth. You're not going to get into resawing on this bandsaw. If that's something that you're interested in, you're going to look, step up to at least a 10-inch bandsaw. One of the higher end 10-inch, or most of the 14-inch can handle that. This is not a production tool, obviously. At this price point, you wouldn't expect that, but I just wanted to call it out. The one that I had in this sort of entry point many years ago, I burned out the motor. I was pushing it too hard. It's possible. I used it a lot, way more than this tool is intended to be used, but that's sort of where we're at with this type of tool. So I wanted to go through just some of the specifications, give you my interpretation of that. So first of all, on the motor front, listed as 2.8 amps. That calculates out to about 1/3 horsepower. That's kind of what you would typically find in this class. And it all depends on the motor build, but I think what I found here is actually power is more than adequate for everything that I did with it. So you'll see that in when I get to the demonstration section. Just a couple more notes. Maximum cutting depth, 3.5 inches. So basically means you could flip a 2x4 on edge and run it through. Probably sufficient for anything you're going to want to do with this saw. The tilt support. I don't tilt my bandsaw table very often, but if you do, I really like the tilt support on here. It's pretty rigid construction. I like the ratcheting design of it, and it really lets you set an angle pretty easily. And the guides, that's where my expectations were really exceeded with this saw. The bearing style guides in here work extremely well. This works so much better than what I've used in this class of saw before with cool blocks and those sorts of guides. These things really hold a steady cut as you're going around curves, and also way better than expected, allow you to cut to a straight line. It's not a table saw. Don't expect it to do consistent, glue up joint rips, but to cut to a reasonably straight line, I was really surprised. I'll show you the results of that as I get into it. So some of the accessories that come with it, the 1/4-inch blade. So it will accept a blade of 1/8 up to 3/8 inch, and they give you a 1/4-inch blade right in the middle. I think that's a great blade for this saw in the typical use cases that you'd probably use it for. And actually for a stock blade, this performed really well. My hunch is it probably wouldn't last super long. It might get dull soon. I doubt it's super high quality steel, but the right out of the box experience was great. I'll give you some recommendations for upgraded blades in the description. I'll give you some links to that. The rip fence that comes with it, inexpensive. It's fine. It's kind of has some. I don't like that it kind of lacks precision in alignment, which alignment is really important with bandsaw. It's important with any cutting tool, the angle that it locks into. But I actually found that it worked pretty well, just getting it lined up as parallel with the blade as I could. It actually ripped pretty well cutting plywood. The miter gauge, it's not super high quality, but it's good enough, and it's a great thing to have in the kit because what I really like is you're able to make very small cuts. I use a bandsaw when I'm cutting something that is smaller than I want to cut on a table saw. It comes in very handy, or a chop saw even. It comes in very handy, and it's a very safe way to do that. The adjustable blade guard has, you're going to use that feature a lot because you're going to always adjust it for the height of the material that you're cutting. And I really like the design, kind of a rack and pinion design, and it's very smooth. Now, if it gets caked up with dust, you're going to have to get a compressor and blow that out. I didn't have that problem. I had dust collection hooked up the whole time, and it stayed very clean on that particular aspect of it. So I do like the way that operates. And then finally, the dust port. I like the positioning of the dust port right below, directly below the blade. That's typically where we're going to find that. But I found this worked pretty well. I just hooked up a shop vac and a 2.5-inch hose to that dust port. And bandsaws in general, I don't expect great dust collection, but it did a pretty good job and kind of got the job done. So in terms of my experience with cutting with this saw, again, kind of exceeded my expectations. So the tests that I ran, I started out with some 3/8 inch oak. I did some curved cuts on a variety of species. The 3/8 inch oak cut just fine, was able to follow the line. 3/4 inch plywood cut like butter and was able to hold the line really well. I cut a 2x4 on a curve, and that worked just great. No problem on that softwood. What really surprised me is I cut some 2-inch maple. That's a lot. I used to do that on my benchtop bandsaw once in a while, but I think that's ultimately what did it in. But the 2-inch maple cut extremely well. And this is with the stock 6 TPI blade. I think with a 4 TPI blade, it would really cut well. Had to take it slow. It wanted to wander a little bit more, certainly than in the softwoods, but by taking my time and just leaving the line, it actually cut quite well and didn't struggle from a power perspective cutting through that. I also did a rip cut or two using the fence, and again, it worked. It did not have a curved cut. It didn't, the blade wasn't wandering. It certainly was a little chattery, which I would expect with a bandsaw, but it got the job done. This will never replace a table saw, but it certainly got the job done, and the fence held. It didn't pop loose on me at all. And then tested, like I said, using the miter gauge, just cutting off a bunch of end cuts off of some softwood in that case, and the end result was a clean cut, and it held very square to the edge of the board, which was, I thought, very impressive. Okay, so in conclusion, I think this saw is a rock star at its price point. It's way cheaper than my scroll saw cost $550 or something like that. It had a stand with it, but still, I think I would much rather have this than a scroll saw for the type of work I do. Now, granted, there are some things that you can't do with a scroll saw, or that you can't do with this saw that you can with a scroll saw. I understand that, but for most of the work that I do, this would be a better go-to than a scroll saw. So I think it outpunches its weight, as I said in the beginning, and I would have no hesitation giving a strong thumbs up and recommendation. I'll give you a link to the saw down below where you can find it. And please let me know if you have questions down below. One of my passions is helping people get into the hobby of woodworking. So if that's where you're at in your journey, please ask as many questions down below. I consider myself pretty responsive in getting back, and I'd love to help get you pointed in the right direction. So thanks for watching. Hope you'll subscribe and come back and do a lot of tool videos, a lot of project videos, and again, love to help you out any way I can to get you started in woodworking. Thanks for watching.